What's up, y'all? It's your girl Kia from Toma Fucking Control. I hope you guys been having a great week. I hope life is treating you guys well. What can I tell you? There's a lot of chaos going on between Hollywood, chaos in our lives, chaos in the world in general. Like, there's chaos. And when there's chaos, there's also revolution, and there's also change that's approximating. I know that chaos causes a lot of people to freak out. At one point in time, it also caused me sometimes to freak out, but when chaos like this occurs in different angles and different areas of your life, external, internal, it's a moment to pay attention, because that means changes are coming. Changes are coming for you to grow, to evolve, to step into your higher self. I am so definitely improvising this episode today. Yeah, this is, hopefully I don't go over 30 minutes, so bear with me. And the topic that was lingering, that I was going to talk about, that it's been ruminating for a month, it's been about domestic violence. But before I go there, I think that another topic that I was led to start talking first was about healing. I'm over here like thinking about it, like, how am I gonna mix domestic violence with healing? Well, I'm gonna do it. I think the reason why is because not only I'm going to talk to the people that experience the abuse, but those that are causing the abuse. As a mental health professional, both requires help. In our lives, we have both our inner light and our shadows. And majority of the time, we want to tend to incline more to our inner light, to the things that we like about ourselves, and not so much about the things that require attention, that require help, that require some sort of change in action in order to get to the ideal person that you want to be later on. Is fear of accepting that not only I am aware that this area exists, but that area belongs to me. And when we are not able to come to that peace and acceptance that I both have light and darkness within me, and that they both coexist, and I know that how the outcomes can be if I incline to one more than the other. And so how can I balance them out and have a fruitful life and be effective in what I do? And obviously grow, evolve from the person you were before. You want to evolve, you want to grow. I'm about to be 30, and so it's like, I don't want to be the same person I was at my 20s. I expect changes, drastic changes, to appear not only in my relationships and in the quality of my relationships, how I see myself, how I treat myself. So overall, I want to talk about mental growth and that change of mindset that we have to have, but also the healing, faith, and our darkness side. So let's dig in. In this healing journey, I've learned so much about myself. And maybe a lot of you may resonate, some of you may not. And that's okay. I think that people nowadays, we want to be liked. We engage in this people pleasing, and let's address these people's needs. Let's make sure that, I want to feel belonged. I want to feel like I'm part of a community. And so I want to make sure that everyone around this community is happy with me and likes me, regardless if I am, crumbling inside. And so you have those stages. I had that stage at the beginning of my 20s where I was like, I want to be liked. I care so much of their perspective that I'll do anything in order to keep my reputation and keep how they perceive me intact. And, that didn't serve me at all. Obviously, some of it's related to past traumas, emotional neglect, and that sort of stuff, that obviously, that's where the healing starts. That's where you want to recognize, where is it coming from? Where are these thoughts coming from? In other words, the emotional intelligence part of it. Like, let me practice that self-awareness. And self-awareness is that, is like, when you're going through these experiences, these emotions, question these thought processes and be like, okay, let me go to the root of it. Let me question it. And if it doesn't serve me, then I'm going to replace it with what serves me, and what is aligned to my values and morals. And so as I get older, and through experience, I've encountered different type of people in my life, right? And I am a true believer that people come to your life for a reason. And it's for you to not only learn about the person and grasp whatever skills or traits they may have that you're attracted to, that could be beneficial, an exchange of traits, an exchange of skills. There's always an exchange of something when it comes to any type of relationship, right? And so I've always been very particular the type of relationships I want to have around me, and especially my inner circle, because I want to learn from people. I love to learn from people. And so what can I learn from you? And what can you learn from me? And how this, in a way, help us grow. And so I say all that to say that I too had to really come down to even cleaning my circle. Even I thought that I have a limited circle. It's not like it's me and the whole world. But even within my circle, I had to do some cleansing. But in order to do that cleansing, I had to work on myself, right? As you start experiencing events and you're like, okay, I'm not happy with this outcome. I'm not happy with this type of lifestyle, or I'm not happy with this type of relationship. Majority of the time it's because, right, they don't go align with what you believe is right, or doesn't go align with your perspective, doesn't go align with your morals and values. And therefore, there comes a room of disappointment. And then again, you're in between. Do I address my needs? Do I satisfy my needs? Or do I address and satisfy the need of the other person? And, you know, depending on what you prioritize and value the most, you would do one or the other. Majority of the time, I would incline to pleasing the other party. And what that did with me was it led to insecurities within myself. It increased insecurities within myself. It created more self-doubt, because now my inner child is being neglected. My needs are being neglected. And the only person that knows them are you, and you're not advocating for yourself. And it's not like you have to come to a confrontation with a person. You can have healthy conversations and vocalize these needs in a way that helps the other person understand your perspective, and vice versa, and come to a middle ground. But because of the fear of losing that individual, sometimes we tend to accommodate, and we tend to stay content with the situation, to keep the peace, especially the peace of the other person. And that's not okay, man. That's not okay. Yes, there's moments where certain situations may not require so much of energy, attention, and it may be that just being content with it and letting it be the right solution. But majority of the time, when you have strong emotions and values, and it really bothers you that how the situation is occurring, you have to, in a healthy way, vocalize it, because if you don't, then you're betraying yourself. You're betraying your beliefs, your morals, and that just causes an inner conflict with yourself. Like, I don't trust you, girl. Like, I'm telling you all these things and you're still neglecting, you're still pushing it to the side, and you're putting this other person in front of our needs. And that's what I wanted to say with that part. It's very important for you to practice emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and having these conversations. It takes practice. It's not a thing that you read on a book and the next day you grasp it. It's a constant practice. overall very important, being aware not only where the problem is coming from, how does it sit with me? How can I vocalize my need in a healthy manner? And this could look like, hey, I want to understand your perspective and I want you to understand my perspective. So the intention of this conversation is to come to a common ground where we can try to both understand each other's perspective and honor each other's needs. The intention of this conversation is not to argue, it's not to choose who is right or wrong, because the way we see the world is completely different. But we can come to an agreement and show that intention, do the best to work in improving that connection and making the other person feel like, damn, this person cares about me, because they're taking their time not only to listen, but also to be mindful of the other person's emotion and willing to expand their perspective so they can include the other person's perspective and see it in a way that, maybe the other person didn't see, and just come to a common ground. Now, I say all that to say, because that's very important, because these 2 last weeks, people have been approaching me, talking to me about how it's hard for them to really implement things that they know that they should be implementing, but they're not implementing it, how it's affecting them, how they're battling with, it's easy for them to quit the things that they love or not even do it because out of fear, because of insecurity, because of fearful of what the other person's going to react to this. And so these people tend to limit what they truly want to say. Sometimes these are beautiful intentions, these are beautiful words, beautiful emotions, but they're afraid of the outcome. And my advice has been to still engage in it, still face it. You never know what the outcome is going to be. You probably may be surprised. Now, why do I say all this stuff? Because this is part of healing, acknowledging yourself, being aware of your needs, honoring those needs, practicing proper emotional intelligence. And when you do that, comes to boundaries, and it comes the type of people around you. You will learn later on, or if you're not in this process already, if you're a person that you like to talk a lot, there's going to be a moment where you're going to be in silence and you're going to be listening more than what you talk. And you're going to be so attentive to people's actions and behaviors around you that you will see the true person in front of you. And from there, you'll decide how much access do you want this person to have in your life. And so learning to accept that you don't have to prolong or continue connections that, even though they have been there for years, some of them you have to let go. Some of them you outgrown them, they have grown you. You guys have grown the connection, and there's no need to keep a connection. But I also believe that there's connections where, people do outgrow a connection and they decide if they want to continue a connection with the new identity, the new persona. And if they don't, then they don't. And you can't force that. A valuable lesson that I learned from that is the presence or the absence of a person does not define your worth. And I want you to really, really have that in your mind. The presence or the absence of a person does not define your worth. So it may hurt when people are going through heartbreaks or a loss of a person or loss of a connection for whatever reason. This doesn't mean because this person is not in your life that you're less valuable than when you were with the person. I'm not saying that the person doesn't add value to a person's life. Yes, they can add value to a person's life, but not completion. You know what I'm saying? You should be whole. And if you don't feel whole and you feel incomplete, that means that we need to do some inner healing and inner work still with ourselves. Because a connection should be just an additional to our life. It should add to what already is there, to whatever blessing, abundance that is within you, that wholeness that's within you. And that was very key elements for me as well. Not only acknowledge your emotions, acknowledge your needs properly in a healthy way, advocate for those needs to be addressed, have an open mind when it comes to these discussions, be clear of the intention of the conversation you're having with the person. That's not to debate or argue, it's more this connection means a lot to me. Therefore, I want to understand and problem solve this in a healthy way to keep this connection healthy and continue to evolve. Also, being aware that the presence or absence of a person doesn't take worth from you as a person. And so that was very important. I'm telling you, these lessons are crazy. When this happened to me, I cried. I started losing people from left to right, cutting down people, because they, in some way or another, were used to the old me. They were used to the accommodating, the pleasing, the addressing the other person's needs. Conversations were more one-sided, and that no longer served me. So I had to let go, love you from a distance, you know? And all this inner work reflected on my confidence. My confidence increased. My self-confidence increased to the point where, like, I am confident today to, if I engage in a relationship, I'm not going to self-sabotage, because I've learned from past mistakes. I learned a lot, but not only on, personal relationship, but also any type of relationship, friends, professional relationships. So why am I so focusing so much on relationship is because we're human beings, okay? And we are meant to be connected with one another. And it's very important the type of connections you surround and entertain, because it's going to reflect and it's going to influence on the quality of your life and the quality of your mindset, and the quality of the direction that you're going to in life. And there are skills that millionaires have not developed, but other people that maybe are not in that financial status has. And that could be something that you need in order to get to the person you want to be. And so that's why I say that I learn from everybody. I learn from everybody. From the maintenance dude to the CEO. I learned something crucial, essential from each person. And each interaction that I have, I take it serious and I pay very much attention. And from there, I determine if I should have that person in my life or not. And I think it's very important to practice when to let go. Sometimes people want to force upon a relationship, or wanting this person to see you or to see the potential of the connection, by holding on. And some people don't learn that way. Some people learn by the absence of the other person to truly appreciate the connection that they had with that person. And then from there, if that person decides to come back, then you guys can have a conversation like two adults. And the goal is to keep the relationship, or, improve the relationship, then so be it. You guys can work that out. But you don't have to force a connection or force someone to stay in a situation, in a relationship that no longer serve them. And that's where we now go and jump into domestic abuse. Because majority of the time, hopefully you guys don't see this as a justification, but majority of the time, the abuser is so fearful of losing that person because this person adds value to me, has something that I don't have and I want near me, makes me feel good. And so they have this person in a cage, in a mental or physical cage. At first they lure them in, maybe love bomb. And then little by little they start discrediting your personality, your decision making, to a point where they make you feel like you can only rely on that person for everything, because now you have insecurities and doubts of everything that you do, from decision making to self-worth. Honestly, like even your perspective, you tend to question it, because this person has mentally worked you, but because you allowed it, and also because you weren't as aware of who you truly are. Because when you know that, you can see that behavior from a distance, And I say all that to say that if you are in a situation like that, pay attention to what I'm saying, but also just know that if this relationship doesn't serve you, you gotta let them go. Regardless if they're using finances as a way to keep you, using custody, of your children, your safety or the safety of your children. Maybe try to have individuals that are aware of the situation, that you can plan an exit plan. But it's a scary situation to be in, I'm gonna say. I have never been physically abused, but yes, verbally abused. And it's a lot of healing that you have to do after you go through that, because a lot of self-doubt, negative thoughts come from that person. And you allowed it because at one point in time, you believed that was true of yourself. That was something that you already had within yourself. And so that person just tapped in it. And so not always domestic abuse starts from hitting you. It's more verbally isolating. They isolate you. I don't like you to be around certain people. I don't like you around this type of people. I just want you to be around me all the time. And I think that any relationship should have healthy connections. You know, there are two people that live, work together, that want to have a relationship together, should still have their own individuality, their own support system, besides their person. Like, they should have their buddy system. They should have their male friends or female friends to hang out with, to talk about other things, to expand, because we're persons of connection. And so we need to have that type of connections in our life. We can't just hyper focus on like, okay, you're my partner and I want to breathe and live in your air and I don't want no one else to do that with you. That's crazy. But I understand, because at one point in time I was like that, you know, clingy as fuck. And I was like, I want you to breathe my air and that's it. This is the only person you need to talk to. And that's not healthy at all. You have to have some type of trust in the person, that they value that connection. Obviously, there's certain boundaries, all right? But there is a thing with opposite sex can be friends. And I'm not going to indulge in that because it's going to be a whole hour section, but I believe in a way, maybe not. That's what I'm going to say on that. Maybe or maybe not. I have situations where I have pure relationship with male friends, like a brother. Nothing else has ever been even slightly suspicious of indicating that in some way or another that person has interest in me or vice versa. And I get like no, don't even. But there's been in occasions where it has surprised me that certain connections, never thought they had some type of interest, they would confess, and then that's where I'm like, oh, okay, well, I think it's time the connection has ended here, because I don't feel that way. Anywho, when a person's insecure and don't feel like they are worthy for the person that they have around, or they feel like this person's so valuable to me that I don't want to share that person with no one, and they want to control everything of this person, from their behavior, interactions, it comes to a point where that right there is toxic. It's abusive, because you're now isolating this person for things that they used to do. You know, they used to socialize with their friends. They used to going out. You met that person that way. And now you're trying to isolate them from all these things that you used to do. And in a relationship, there should be a shift of lifestyles and mindset. It's still balanced. Still, you can address your needs. You can still have a level of freedom of being able to have your alone time, your time with your friends, because everyone deserves that, and not be fearful of that person's going to cheat on you or leave you or find someone more interesting to be with. And if that's the case, let them leave. Let them find out. I think a lot of people act on fear of rejection, of abandonment, and it pulls out the worst in a person. It does something to them. Some of it has to do with inner child trauma. Some of it can be a personality issue. But for the most part, because I know that people are going to be like, oh, maybe they have narcissist traits. A lot of us have some narcissist traits. Not all of us meet the criteria of a narcissist, but a lot of us have some narcissist traits. The key of this is being aware that we do have these and how to properly manage and address these in a way that you're not using this against the person you love. And if you're aware and open about it, then you're able to like, okay, I am right now working through these traits, and these traits are going to give me to this type of outcome. So let me retract and recognize, take accountability of what I just did, and mend your mistakes. But yeah, I think that this topic of domestic violence starts from there. It starts from lack of accountability and awareness and lack of healing. Verbally being abusive by isolating you and by creating self-doubt as a person and what you stand for, from your decision making to your perspective to your ideologies, all that stuff. And so a person tends to have a need of control. There's some social and cultural influences too. I'm Hispanic. Unfortunately, there is a lot of domestic violence cases every year in the island. And unfortunately, not too long ago, earlier this year, there was an event where a woman was shot and killed in a police station while she was in the middle of reporting a protective order against her partner. And it was very shocking, but at the same time, like almost normalized. And I'm not saying that there's certain people, obviously, that weren't okay with the situation. But when you grow up seeing these cases, personal experience, you've seen that firsthand. You've seen domestic violence, physical abuse as growing up, and you start normalizing this and thinking that this is normal behavior and that this is part of what normal love should look like. And it's later on when you start realizing none of this was normal, none of this was healthy, and you have to start pulling all these things out and be like, nope, this is not right. I'm gonna throw this out. This is not okay. I'm gonna replace it with something more healthier. But majority of the time, these patterns, these behavior patterns are from that we have seen in some way or another through our childhood. And so, or we tend to engage in this type of behavior, or we tend to tolerate this behavior because we think that because it's common, something we grew up knowing that this is what love should look like, this is what should a relationship look like, and no, it's not the case. And I wish schools should have like a class of psychology, a class of where they can teach us of little by little recognizing our emotions, how does the emotions influence in our perspective and in our actions, how to regulate our emotions, how to properly vocalize our needs. I think that could be very helpful for society in general. A lot of cultural influence and societal influences play a big part on gender roles, power dynamics, relationships. You know, it's very challenging, and it's crucial to create a culture where domestic violence is not tolerated, regardless of the gender, because I have to recognize that men are also abused. It's not only females, you know. Men do get abused too, verbally and physically. And it's not okay because a woman does it, and it's not okay because a man does it. It's just not okay, point blank. We truly need to learn that we can't force no one to love us. And like I said earlier, the absence or the presence of a person doesn't really define their worth. And you really have to do your inner work in order to truly know that you don't need to do those type of behaviors to control a person if they don't love you, if they don't want to be with you. And you don't really have to tolerate those behaviors hoping that they would change. Let them go. And from your absence, they have to now look at themselves because they don't have no one else to point the finger at, and take accountability and work on themselves if they want to. Or they can find someone else that freaking tolerates too. But that's why we have to talk about this more. Domestic violence is not okay. But in order to truly address this problem, I think we need to work on healing and truly doing the inner work. Because if you don't, this domestic issue is still going to be an issue. It's still going to be an issue. You get the person arrested and what happens? That's it. Okay, they learned the lesson for a little bit. That may work or may not work. It doesn't work for everybody. And so it's important to practice that inner work, to implement that, to not tolerate that type of behavior. And I know it's easier said than done. But if it's a very dangerous situation, no one deserves to be in a situation like that. And so to be wise, implement and develop an exit plan and have people that you trust to support that and help you out when the time comes. And then for anyone that sees that type of abuse, like, report it. It's our duty. What if that was your daughter, your sister, your cousin, your mom, your brother, your son, your father, your friend? Wouldn't you want someone else to report it, someone that's experiencing some type of abuse? Even if that means the end of that connection with that person. I prefer ending a connection with that person and they being upset and they being alive than having that on my conscience. Because I didn't do anything and that person's no longer with us. So let me know in your comments what you guys think about this episode. I know I went a lot longer than I expected, but let me know. Let me know what you guys think about it. Did you guys implement anything that I said? Are you guys in similar process? How this has been helpful. But I do appreciate your guys' time, your support. I have much love for you guys. Hopefully we'll have another episode for you. This one was very, improvised, but I feel like was much needed for this time, for this season. And so may God be with you and you guys stay blessed. And I know this is going to be mixed up, but, God knows I cuss out a little bit. But toma fucking control. Take control. Take fucking control of the quality of life you want to have.